I hear people talking about this all the time. They're posting consistently, they redid their website, they're running ads, they're doing all the things right, and the inquiries and leads just aren't coming in. And the old way of thinking, honestly, the way that I used to think is that maybe they need better SEO or ads need better targeting, right? Like the right audience needs to be targeted or the website needs a different layout. Like somewhere in this machine, there's a broken piece. But the more you actually dig into it, the more you start to realize the problem is almost never what people think. It's not the marketing itself, it's not the frequency, it's not the budget or the outreach, it's the messaging. And specifically, it's whether you're actually talking to your potential client in a way that invites them into their own story, or whether you're just describing what you do and hoping the right person figures it out and figures it's for them, right? Those two things feel similar when you're writing your website or your captions, but they land completely differently on the other side. When a client is looking at this, it just hits and people feel it. And I want to be really clear here because I don't want this to come across like I'm saying marketing doesn't matter, right? I'm literally in the marketing and branding space. So that would be a weird thing for me to say. Marketing matters. Good marketing matters a lot. But marketing is just the vehicle. And if the message inside the vehicle isn't connecting with the right people, you can have the best looking vehicle in the world, right? And it still won't get you where you want to go. And here's what I mean by that. When someone lands on your website or sees your Instagram or comes across your content, they're asking a really simple question, even if they don't know that they're asking it. They're asking, is this for me? And it's not if this is good or if this person seems legit, which they're maybe subtly thinking too, but it's, is this for me? Because everyone is always just looking after their own wants and needs, as sad as it may sound, right? But it's true. And what I see over and over and over again, and gosh, I've done this myself, is businesses where the marketing is genuinely solid, but the messaging is describing the service instead of speaking to the person. It's communicating what you do rather than who you're for and what it's actually like to be on the other side of working with you. And the reason this happens, I think, is pretty understandable when you sit with it. When you're close to your own work, like really close, like we are, the way most of us are, right? You start describing it in the language of someone who already gets it. You use the industry buzzwords, you list the deliverables, you talk about your process in a way that makes perfect sense to you. But the person reading it on the other side is sitting there going, okay, but what does that actually mean for me? What does my situation look like after I hire this person? How is this going to change my life? And remember, these people are just continuously scrolling, right? They are seeing so much messaging in everyday life. There's also this fear thing that comes in. And again, I think this is more common than people admit, where we stay a little vague on purpose because we're worried that if we get too specific about who we help, we're going to accidentally leave someone out. Like, if I'm too niche in how I talk about my clients, I'll miss somebody who doesn't fit that description, but would have been a great fit. But the reality is the opposite of what happens. Specifically, vagueness is what makes you forgettable. And forgettable doesn't convert. No matter how many times you post, it doesn't matter. If you're vague, it doesn't work. You see, there was a point in my own business, I think maybe a year or so into it, where I went through and redid my website copy. And I honestly thought it was good. I had the right sections, the process was laid out, the portfolio was there, everything looked clean and professional, but something wasn't connecting. People were coming to the site, I could see the analytics, but they were leaving. Inquiries weren't coming in the way I expected them to, and man, it was hard. And I remember sitting down and really trying to read it the way a potential client would. I actually had a friend help me because it's hard to do it ourselves, right? And not someone who already understands branding and design, but someone who is overwhelmed, someone who's normal, someone whose business visually feels all over the place, who just wants to feel genuinely proud of the way their brand looks and shows up in the world. And what I realized having a friend look through it and looking through it myself from a different lens is, man, we were way off. We were not inviting the clients into a story whatsoever. It was all about us because that's what we think marketing is. We think it's all about selling ourselves, selling our product, pitching, right? But when you're just describing the service, you're not actually describing anything at all because there are a lot of other people providing the exact same service. So I rewrote it all with that lens, and the shift in inquiries was noticeable pretty quickly after that. Not because the marketing changed, not because I started posting more or running ads, because the message finally started landing. It started resonating with people. So let me get practical here because I don't want this to just be a conceptual thing. I never want my videos to be that. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I think this might be my situation, there are three specific things that I would say to look to first. The first is your headline. Whatever the first line is that someone reads on your website or your bio or your ad, does it immediately tell them whether this is for them? Or does it describe your service in a way that could technically apply to anyone in the industry? Does it stop the scroll, right? Does it make them stop and think or at least become interested? Here's a quick way to gut check this. If you swapped out your niche and the headline still made sense, it's probably too broad. The goal is for your ideal client to read it and feel like you wrote it specifically for them. The second thing I would change is your problem language. One of the most powerful things you can do in your messaging is actually name the situation your best clients are in when they come to you, right? And I mean the before, not just the after, not the outcome that you provide, but are they feeling right now? What made them finally decide to do something about it? And what's been frustrating them? When someone reads that and thinks, oh my gosh, that's exactly where I'm at right now, that's the moment they become a warm lead. Without you doing any additional marketing, the message did it all for you. And the third one is your proof. Testimonials and case studies count as messaging too, but generic ones like, they were so great to work with, I highly recommend, 2 thumbs up. Those don't move the needle the way specific ones do. What moves the needle is when your proof is detailed enough that someone reads it and thinks, wait, that sounds exactly like my situation or sounds like me. That's what gets people to reach out. And here's where I want to take this a little deeper because I think there's something underneath all of this that's worth being honest about. There's a lot of times when our messaging is vague. It's because we're a little vague on our own offer. Like somewhere in there, we haven't made a really clear decision yet about who we are or what we do or who we work for best or what we're actually promising someone when they hire us. And you genuinely cannot write clear, specific, connecting messaging about something that you're still fuzzy about internally. So if you go do this work, if you sit down and try to tighten up your headline or write more specific problem language, right? It's going to feel hard. It might not be a messaging problem then. It might be a positioning problem. It might be that the more useful work is getting honest with yourself first about who you're actually for and what you're actually selling them. Because once you have that clarity, the words come so much more natural. They start to feel true instead of performed. And when they feel true to you, they read as true to the person on the other side. So here's what I would actually do this week. If I were in your shoes, I'd pull up my own website, not to redesign anything. Stop trying to redesign everything. Just read it and ask myself honestly, if someone who had never heard of me landed on this page, would they know within the first 2 seconds whether this was for them? And then I'd go one step further. I'd find someone who's a little bit more removed from my world, not someone who already knows me and my work, someone fairly random, loose connection maybe. And I'd ask them to read my homepage. And then I'd ask them to tell me in their own words who they think I help and what problem I solve. If what they say back doesn't match what you think you're saying, there's your gap, right? That's the answer you're looking for. That's where the work comes into play. That's where you should change things. And the thing is, you don't need a new strategy to fix it. You don't need a bigger budget or a new platform. You need your message to actually land with the person you're trying to reach. And that's something you can start working on today, right now, without spending a dime. Although I will say that getting outside help truly does help so much because you just can't see a lot of the things on your own, no matter how much you think about it. And so reach out to us at Creative Cabana. We would love to help you with this process. If you feel like you've been doing the right things, showing up, staying consistent, investing in your marketing, and the inquiries still aren't coming in the way that you want them to, I genuinely don't think the problem is your effort because you're probably a hard worker. And I don't think it's your marketing, or at least your outreach, right? I think it's that your message hasn't fully connected yet. And the good news is that's fixable. It doesn't require starting over. It just requires getting specific enough about who you're talking to so that they actually recognize themselves in what you're saying. So that they actually recognize themselves in what you're saying and feel like you're speaking directly to them, not just describing a service like everyone else. That's what's going to bring inquiries or change your business. True strategy can change the game for you. I've seen it with hundreds of clients. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the journey, my friend.